Hello, version 1.7 of the R.U.B.E Box2D editor is available now, and in this video we're just going to take a look at some of the new additions in this version. So as usual, I'll just make a little makeshift menu here, and I'll put some hyperlinks over here once I've finished the video, and you can just click through to the parts that might interest you. As you can see, there's not that many new features, at least number-wise, but this last one here is a fairly big one. However, fortunately, it's quite easy to explain, so hopefully this video is not going to drag on like a lot of the other ones do. So let's get right into it. Start from the easiest one first. The measure tool is used just by hitting M, and it will show you the distance between the location from where you hit M to the current location of the mouse pointer, and you can see the vertical and horizontal distances as well. And you just hit escape to exit that mode. So that's all that is. That was actually in the older free version of the editor, and some people asked for it to be reinstated in this version as well, so that's what we've done. And you can actually split this across two views. So say if I wanted to get a very precise measurement from the end of this piece of ground, I could actually do M, hit M in here, and it will jump across to the other view. So these views are sharing the same control state. Anyway, so that's all that is. Pretty simple. What else have we got? The custom property combo box exporting. This was also something that some people were wanting to do, quite a few people actually. And the way this works is, say I have fixture selected here, and we can see that I've added a custom property to let me add a ground type to this, surface type to this ground. And it's working by using a combo box here. So I want to export this whole set of custom properties to another scene. So the way we've been doing that so far is going into the scene settings dialog, and in here in the custom properties tab we can click copy to clipboard. Now previously what that has done is, if I just click on this property and edit it, we can see that this is how this custom property was set up. So we have the name and the display name, and then we have the combo box settings. So previously these combo box entries were not being copied across when you did this copy to clipboard. But if I click that now and then go into my clipboard and go into my text editor and paste the clipboard, it's a little bit large, but you can see now that we have this script function called insert custom property combo box entry. So I can just take that, well, it was already in my clipboard, but I can make a brand new scene, and let's say I add a body. Now at the moment I don't have any custom properties on here for fixtures in this scene file, but if I just open the script panel up quickly and paste that script in and run it, close the script panel again, now we'll see that we have a custom property for fixtures there, and when I click on here we'll see that we also have the combo box entries ready to use as well. So hopefully that should be a lot more convenient for transferring your custom properties between scenes in the future. Right, what else have we got? Control key vertex snapping. That is for, let's zoom in here, that is for when you're moving or adding vertices. So for example, when I'm moving this vertex, normally we have a smooth movement like that, but if I hold down control key now, we'll see that we can snap in discrete movements of, let's see, what have we got at the moment? The control key step size is set to 0.25 units there at the moment, or at the moment it's 0.5 units if I'm snapping to the grid, which is the absolute grid. So that's these two modes here. At the moment we are in relative mode. So if you see, it's 0.25 units starting from the current position of the vertex, which is here. So hopefully that makes sense. And if I switch this to absolute grid, then we're not starting from that beginning position, we're just on an absolute grid of 0.5 units. And this also works when you are adding new vertices. So let's see, what can we do this way? So normally you would just add vertices like this, but oops, let's get rid of that. But now that you can snap to a grid, we can add them a little bit more like this. So you can make square shapes like this a lot easier than you could before. So before you would have to place the vertices roughly and then sort of align them up by using this align left, right, top and bottom menu here. So now it should be much easier to set out things like that. That's all that does. Alright, that was quick, wasn't it? We're already onto the main course. So instantiable objects has been on the to-do list for quite a long time, and as you can see here, this is the feature voting page that the purchasers of RUBE get to vote on, and this quickly became the top most wanted feature. The orange bar shows how many people have voted for this as something that they wanted, and I've seen it there, I've been aware of it, and finally got around to doing it in this release. And it's just a first draft at the moment. I think it has a lot more potential than what I'm about to show you, but I'll put it out in this release as is now, and I'll look for some feedback, I think, and see how it goes. So what is an instantiable object? Let's just get rid of that. An instantiable object is basically another RUBE file, scene file, that we can put inside this scene. So it's kind of a scene inside a scene. So let's say I have my scene here, and this is my level for my game. So this is level 1 RUBE. And in the same way that I would add an image to the scene, we now have this new item type which is called object. And an object is it encapsulates a set of other bodies, fixtures, joints and images. So let's just do that, and that will let me select a RUBE file. So I'm going to choose this one here, car RUBE, and now we can see here that we have a car which has been brought into the scene, and it is shown in white outline, dashed lines, and we have a new edit mode here, which I can enter into by clicking this button or hitting the O key, and that will let me edit objects. So when I do that, we'll see the outline of this object show up, and I can select it and move it and rotate it, rotate it and scale it and so on. So I can, let's put this over here, and I can duplicate it. Now, where did this come from? Let's just have a look at the original car RUBE file. So this is the file that is the subject of that object. And the point of this is that these objects become like a template. So what I could have done is copy this body, bring it over here and paste it in like that, and then I could, you know, do that again like this. So that would give me kind of the same effect as what I've just done with my objects, except there's one very important difference in that these two over here that I created from pasting bodies are they're actual bodies within this scene, whereas the objects over here are references to some other file, some other bodies somewhere else. And that's very important, because what that lets us do is, let's say I want to take my car and I want to give it really big wheels like this, and then I save that file, you'll see over here my templated cars have now been given large wheels because they're looking at reference to this file, and the ones that were made from actual bodies have not changed. So hopefully this should give you the idea that this is a very useful thing to use when you have multiple instances of the same object all over your scene. And another useful thing we can do, if we make another copy here, is if we look at the properties for an object, there's not many, just to name the file that it came from, so we can click on this button to choose a different file, change the file, and we have just a position, angle, scale, and a flip, which is what I'm just about to show you. So if I click on here, I can flip it horizontally. So that's kind of the same way that images are flipped. And of course, because it's still looking at that template, we can just change the template and everything else in there will change. So this is a great way for making mirrored objects. So just to illustrate, let's make that wheel a bit smaller again. And I've set it to automatically update every 5 seconds to check if the object file has changed. So this is a great way to make mirrored structures without having to make one side of the mirrored structure and then copy it over to the other side every time you make a small change. So hopefully this should make symmetrical constructs a lot less time consuming to make. Alright, so how these objects actually used in the scene. Well, when you export this file, or when you do when you open this scene in the player view, as I will do now, hold on a second, you'll see there was a little dialogue that popped up just for a brief moment there, and that's because, oops, sorry, hit the wrong button. Let's try this again. So it says processing object instances just for a brief moment, and that's because what it has to do is go around and open up the files that are being referenced by all these objects, bring them into the world, and make instances of them and rotate and scale them and such if they need to be rotated and scaled. So the more work that goes, the more changes that have gone into this set of instances, the more time it's going to take to export or to open the player view. But anyway, once we've opened the player view, we can see that we just have the we no longer have objects, we have the actual bodies that were referenced in the files that these objects came from. So that's about it, really, I think. At least that's the main part of it. And one thing that I added while I was doing this is the ability to nest objects, and this was requested by this person here, Nautical Mile. Whoops, hold on. And he says, all I ask is that whenever nested objects are rolled out, the door be left open for the possibility of nested instantiable objects. And I thought, well, that's a good idea. He also says that Unity, the Unity users want to see this in Unity, and the reason is not clear that why Unity has not implemented it. And I'm pretty sure, after having implemented it myself in R.U.B.E, which is very much more simple than Unity, I'm pretty sure that the reason they haven't done it in Unity is because it's kind of a pain in the butt. At least it would be in Unity, much more so than in R.U.B.E. It took me about as long to implement the nesting as it did for the actual objects themselves. But, and this is where, like I was saying before, it's not really as useful as I would like it to be, because, if we just go back to there for a second, where has it gone? This one. He says, for example, consider two car objects who would like to refer to the same wheel object. Well, that's great, we can do that now, but we'd also like to have some joints between those two objects, I'd imagine. So while it's possible to make a car and then nest a wheel inside it, as I'll show you in a moment, there is no way to specify that this object should have such and such a joint with such and such a joint parameters connected to this object at this coordinate within that object, and that they should interact together when they are exported. So that's something that hopefully can be done in the future. And that probably wasn't a very good explanation, I think, but I'll just stop talking about that for now. So let's just have a quick look at how we can nest objects. Nope. So I have 3 objects called A, B, and C, which I have, of course, forgotten to prepare. Let me just... What are we doing? See? Sorry, let me just prepare this a bit better. That doesn't quite look right, does it? I have these set up from testing, which is why they CA. Oh, I know where it is. Okay. Let me perhaps start with I'll start with them one by one and show you how I constructed them. Might be a little bit better way to do it. Right, let's say we have a scene with a body, and this is file a.rube. Just save that. And we want to have in here, actually let's make all of these. Just give me a moment, what's going on here? Alright, we're ready. Okay, so we have 3 scenes. One just has an A, one has a B, and one has a C, and the files are all named as such as well. Now let's say I take my A body and I put my cursor over here, and actually I put it over here, and I'll add an object reference to the B. So that will bring in B as an object, and I can duplicate it and bring it over here. And I'll put that like that, put that like that. And so what's going to happen there is when I export this file, or sorry, when I run it in the player view, we'll see a bunch of A's and B's like that. Hopefully that's pretty obvious what's happened there. Now let's say we save that. Now we go into our B file, and in our B file we add a reference to C, and we'll make that like that, and I'll just look at A when we save B. So I'm saving B, and now we'll see that because B has C in it, A is referencing C through the B. Now hopefully you can guess what's going to happen when we try to do this with C. We're going to have a problem, because what I'm going to do is in C I'm going to put a reference to an object that uses the file A. So this is going to cause a circular reference. So I just wanted to point out that this is obviously nonsensical. It doesn't make sense to do this. So what happens when you try is so you can see here the A has come in okay, the A has brought in the B, then the B is trying to bring in another C. So at that point we stop and we have this little placeholder image that says invalid object. So if you see that, you'll know that you have a loop detected, and it should also say down here in the log panel, it'll say that there's a loop detected, and it's just going to ignore that. So if I try and run my file, my scene for C, when I look at this, we'll see I can get through to C, but I can't get to the A again. So hopefully that makes sense. And to complete the cycle, if I save this file C now, we should see that the B and the A also have the same problem, and that they're going to have some invalid objects references. So A goes to B goes to C, but we don't get another A for file A. And in B, B goes to C goes to A, but not back to B again. So hopefully you can understand that that is a logical limitation, otherwise it would just go on forever. But apart from that, I don't think there's anything much else to say. So in the future, hopefully we can have some more interaction between these nested objects. So the car, for example, will be able to connect itself to the wheel in a sensible way, and we will be able to set the parameters for the wheel joint and so on. Because then if that can be done in a sensible way and have a GUI that makes it easier to use, that will be a really, really powerful little system to have, I think. I don't have any good ideas for how to do it still, but I'll just put this version out there now, and at least we can use static objects and well, it doesn't have to be static objects. For example, if I go back to my level and I put in that mech that I had the other day, where is that? I can put this in as an object. Oh yeah, one other thing I wanted to mention actually. So let's say I have this mech and it's a 2 versus 1 thing. This actually has a revolute joint that makes it walk. Oh, those are going to collide. Okay. So yeah, it doesn't have to be a static object, of course. But what was I going to mention? Oh yeah. One thing that you'll find if you take these and you scale them up is that, for one thing, the joints and everything get rendered a little bit strange because it's using OpenGL transforms rather than actually changing the vertex positions of all these items here. But more importantly than that, you'll find that your joints now will not really work as you hoped, because they're going to be much weaker. So he's not going to walk anywhere, because since I scaled him up by a factor of let's see, I scaled him up by a factor of 2. Let's say scaling him up by a factor of 2 means that the area of all his fixtures has been quadrupled, right? So the square is now covering 4 times as much area. So what that means is that to keep the joint working in the same way that I had before, it's going to have to be 4 times as strong in order to turn his legs in the same way as it was before. So that's another shortfall of the current system. There's no way to conveniently change joint parameters and things that are inside the object that's being referenced. So that's another thing that hopefully in the future we can figure out some way around. But anyway, it's getting a little bit long already, so I think I'll just leave it there, and thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoy using the editor. And if there's any problems, of course, jump in the forums there and let me know, or just send me an email. Okay, see you later.